Are you sure you don't want me to do this? Yes, I am sure, Leland. Being your first mate means I am your connection to the ship. The crew knows me better than they know you because my relationship with them is different. They will take this better coming from me. Plus, we can both agree I am better at speeches, Alana said, echoing what she had said the past 7 times Leland had asked her with some snark added at the end. The bridge crew had spent the greater part of a week working on what all would need to be done to survive what was happening, as well as the best way to inform the rest of the crew. It took longer than Alana would have liked, but there was much that needed to be discussed before they were ready to address the crew. The officers wanted to be sure they had all of the answers they possibly could before going to the rest of the crew. And now that the time had come to share the news, Leland had gone from morose to anxious, as if he thought this whole thing was his fault. "We are doing the right thing," she said in response to the look of worry on his face. "You underestimate your people. We have been through hell. We will get through this." The uncertainty continued to cling to them like fog, but a small amount of hope started to peek through. It was not much, but it gave them the strength to keep moving forward. "Everyone has been gathered," Eva said, snapping them both back to the present. "And my people are ready to intercede should it be required. They refrain from action until given orders or if the situation demands." They knew that their crew would have a hard time accepting the news, just as they had. The message itself had been tailored with this in mind, crafted to make clear the way forward and the choices that would need to be made in the future. They also knew that some small but important choices would need to be made, and they agreed that everyone had a right to have a say in those decisions. It was the least they could do given what little choice they had otherwise. It was rare that the mess hall held the entire crew, yet even at their largest they failed to fill it. 253 souls all gathered together to hear the announcement. Some had joined the crew near the beginning of the war, a few had drifted in and out, and once the war was over, more than a few crew members arranged to have their families aboard. Never before had the ship been so lively. Now it was filled with a silent unease. Now each and every soul, save 3 of the bridge crew, was gathered in one space, waiting nervously for the announcement. The room quieted as First Mate Alana Clive stepped forward to the little podium that had been set up, glancing down at the speech laid out before her. Even after hours of working on it, refining the details, she still found herself wishing it were not true. But it was, so she gave them her most reassuring smile and tucked a rebellious strand of blonde hair behind her ear, and then began to speak. "As you all know, the war that has forged our family has been over for several months now, with the tenets of the peace treaty being hammered out over the weeks following the ceasefire. I don't need to remind you of the loss we all experience in the fighting. Countless lives, untold history, and vital resources are now gone. Our universe has been crippled, stripped of some of the people who traveled among us, lost in the carnage. And I know that many of you were hoping to return to your homes or what is left now that the fighting is over. But I am afraid that a recent discovery is going to change those plans." A murmur swept through the crowd, the concern echoing off the worn metal walls. Alana gave them a few moments and then continued. "Near the end of the fighting, the Sasiak people were all destroyed, save a few prisoners being kept by their enemies. Plans had been made to bring them together and find some way to preserve what was left. And in those conversations, the leaders of the Alliance discovered something troubling. A group within the Sasiak government fashioned a deadly nanovirus to serve as their final retribution, unbeknownst to anyone else, save one of the survivors who had heard a rumor but did not believe such a thing was possible. It seems that the virus was unleashed with the accidental destruction of their home world. It began to spread immediately and ended up killing the crew that was taking one of the formerly imprisoned Sasiaks to see if anyone could be salvaged from the moon. All but the Sasiak died within days." Alana did her best to appear calm, keeping her voice smooth and even as she felt the ripple of fear passing through the crowd. Investigations began immediately into the nature of this virus, as well as any possible ways to combat it. Unfortunately, with everything going on, it did not get the attention it needed until the virus had evolved and spread to the point that no one alive can take control of it. All available medical officers have been tasked with looking for a solution, but given the rate at which this virus has spread, another solution needed to be implemented. "What's going to happen to us?" A young man sitting in the back piped up, echoing the thoughts of everyone in the room. Xander, the youngest and newest member of the crew. He wore his crew uniform with pride, decorated with pins and trinkets in a practice that he picked up from a smuggler who got him off his home planet. They had picked him up in a rescue mission where his original captain did not want him back due to differences in religious belief. So they adopted him, and he became their gopher, and surprisingly, the heart of the crew during some of the more trying missions. The kid was clever, and he was stubborn, and he refused to give up his beliefs and practices, including his shaved head. The Rizal were able to come up with a plan to keep the survivors who have not already been infected safe, along with the help of the surviving Sasiak and a few other brilliant strategists. Our ship was scanned while we were connected to Salvation, so I can say with confidence that no one on this ship has been infected, and all of our cargo is clean. We are safe, and we will remain so as long as we keep moving away from the Sakiak homeworld. The captain stepped forward. We have on this ship everything we need to start a new life on a clean world, which we are traveling to find now. The Rizal gave us a location that is far enough away that we will have enough time to settle before deploying a quarantine shield. I promise I will do everything in my power to keep each and every one of you safe, he said, speaking with more confidence than he felt. His intentions were unquestionable, but in light of such a threat, it was difficult not to doubt his ability to keep his word. Where will we go? Ensign Danvers asked. That is still being decided. We will be reaching what has been designated as the safe zone by the end of the month. That gives us 3 weeks to evaluate and choose our options for landing zones. Once we are closer, we can begin evaluations before making our final decisions. You will all be included in this. We understand that this is a lot to process, Alana continued. That is why you will all have access to all of the information we have. While the situation affords us limited options, what decisions we can make, we will make together. How long will we need to remain in quarantine? Jenny asked. We do not yet know for sure, Leland admitted. The Rizal are still gathering data on the spread and lifespan of the nanovirus. Once they have more concrete data, they will let us know. You are all dismissed to do whatever you need to process this information. I know this is not anything any of you wanted to hear, and it may feel like a hopeless situation, but we have faced hopeless situations before. It is not ideal, but we will survive. From their faces, the crew did not seem entirely convinced by Alana's words. Not that she could blame them. It did not feel real to her either, even though logically she knew it was. If she had not come to accept it, how could she expect them to? A figure stood in the back, and for a second the bridge crew worried they would have a protest on their hands. But it was just Xander drawing all attention to him. We will weather this together just as we have weathered every other storm. Because we are the crew of the Circumstance, nothing can stop us. Who are we? He proclaimed. Circumstance, someone responded. Who are we? Circumstance. Who are we? Circumstance. And so the halls of the Circumstance rang with the chant that saw its crew through many a battle as they faced a future none of them wanted with the confidence that they would all be facing it together.